Ask Reddit, what's the story of the most entitled person you have ever seen? Backstory: EA is an ultra-religious Muslim who almost hurt me because of my religious affiliation. I already posted that story, and that's actually the first time EA has been out in her place. Introducing the cast. EA, entitled aunt. No, nice uncle. Op, yours truly. PR, poor relative. It was a nice hot summer afternoon in Australia. We were having a nice family reunion in the backyard, cooking meat on the grill, and relaxing with each other. PR, aged 15 at the time. We are talking and catching up when out of nowhere EA pops out. EA, aren't you a little young to be wearing this outfit? PR, excuse me. Keep in mind that PR was wearing a tank top because the temperature was 30 degrees Celsius out there. EA, you looked like a slut in that tank top. She decided to crank it up to 100. Op, ma'am, it's 30 degrees out here. EA started yelling the second I opened my mouth. EA, I don't remember asking you for your ducking opinion, you Wiccan. PR, please ma'am, it's so hot out here, so I would really appreciate if you wow. EA, don't you have any self-respect, you slut? You are disrespecting your religion and I by wearing these slutty clothes. At this point the entire neighborhood was hearing us argue. EA had a reputation for embarrassing my grandpa after arguing about religion with his neighbors, so I had to calm the situation down so that we won't get the cops called on us. Op, please ma'am, I am begging you to stop making a scene every time someone does something that you don't necessarily agree with. At this point EA tried to slap PR, but luckily her husband knew stopped her before she did. EA, why aren't you letting me punish her? She is disrespecting us and our religion. No, because you're hitting someone for doing what they want. PR, who was a Christian, started yelling too. PR, take her to a ducking mental institution. She's clinically insane. Op, that's enough you guys, especially EA. Stop making a fuss like a 2-year-old whenever you see something that you disagree with. Now EA was trying to hit me because, why not? And at this point no snapped. No, I've had enough of you EA. You have to produce religious tension every time you go to a family reunion. You have always been embarrassing me and my son because someone believes in a different religion. I'm sick and tired of this bull. If you do this to anyone one more time, you and I are gonna have a serious discussion. At last, EA has been put in her place for what seemed like the last time, and she shut up for the rest of the day before everyone left for their homes. New came and apologized for his wife's actions, and he promised us that this was the last time EA will act like this, and he delivered on his promises until he died 2 years later. After he died, EA got married to a man from UAE and began acting like she did before Nu died. In the end, it took one wedding with many problems to put her in her place for good. I, like many people nowadays, am stuck at home most days. I only really get to go out to go grocery shopping, or maybe the pharmacy to get diapers. Yay. The other day I had to pick up some diapers, so off to the pharmacy I went. They were limiting the number of people in the store, so I had to get in line right behind Karen. There were about 3 people in front of us, and we were all keeping our social distance from each other. But I could still hear her complaining the whole time. Ugh, why do I have to stand out here? They're going to be out of everything by the time I get in there. ECT. When the lady out front tells her she can go in, she goes ugh finally, and storms past her. I'm a regular at the store, so I guess the lady recognized me, so we exchanged. Can you believe her looks? It was finally my turn, so I thanked the lady and went in. I made a beeline for the diapers section and got the diapers. As I was heading to the registers I noticed they had some eggs on sale. The pharmacy also has some groceries. I wasn't sure if we needed eggs, so I called my wife to see if we needed some. They had 2 cartons left, and there was a big sign saying limit 1 per customer. Both packs looked like they had been through the ringer and were falling apart. My wife said we could use them, especially if they were on sale. I was about to grab one when Karen showed up out of nowhere and pushed past me, like right next to me. I took a quick step back, both out of shock and distancing, and she grabbed both cartons. I pointed out the 1 carton limit. She said, well, my kids need their eggs, and she put both in her cart. I wasn't in a desperate need for them anyways, so I didn't push it any further. I basically followed Karen to the registers, as I guess she was heading there too. They only had 2 registers open, so I lined up behind her. They had marks on the floor for social distancing. I looked to my left and saw another cooler full of eggs, in much better condition than the 2 that Karen had taken. So I just grabbed one of those and put in my cart. When Karen got up to the front, she puts both eggs cartons on the counter. The cashier told her sorry, but these have a 1 carton per customer limit. Karen smiled at her. I know, but I was hoping maybe you could make an exception for me, because my kids eat eggs every day for lunch, and they need their eggs. The cashier looks at the 2 falling apart cartons and knows she probably won't find anyone else to buy them. She told me afterwards. So she says, okay, we will make an exception for you. Karen is elated. Oh, thank you so much. As the cashier scans and puts the eggs in a bag, Karen puts 3 packages of toilet paper on the counter. I had glanced at the section as I went past, and it was empty. Again, I didn't need any TP, so it wasn't a big deal. The cashier looks at them and sighs. Unfortunately, the toilet paper in on a 1 package per customer as well. Karen looks at her again. Could you make another exception for me, please? We are completely out of toilet paper at home, and this is all you have in the store. We need it. The cashier sighs again. I'm sorry, but if that is all we have, then some other customers might need it. Karen looks at her and says, but my kids need it. I'm sorry, said the cashier. She reached for the toilet paper as Karen pulled it back in a hug, and then she said those 6 little words that every Reddit writer dreams about. Let me speak to your manager. I was within arm's length of some popcorn, so I debated grabbing some for the show. The cashier grabbed the phone and asked if the manager could come out. He came out after a minute or so. Hi, what seems to be the problem? He asked Karen. Your employee made an exception for me with my eggs, but now she refuses to make one for my toilet paper. He looks at her like she has 3 eyes, but the cashier explains it all to him. Okay, I see the problem, he says. He steps up to the register as cashier steps back. He scans 1 pack of toilet paper, placing all 3 packs in the baggage area. Karen didn't catch this because she is looking at cashier all smug. He then types something on the register and takes one of the egg cartons out of the bag, handing it to the cashier along with the other 2 packs of the toilet paper. Could you please put these back on the shelf for me? Thanks. Cashier smiles and says sure. Karen starts to say something as cashier leaves, but manager cuts her off. Sorry, limit 1 per customer. She starts to say something again as he puts her TP in the bag with the eggs, but he just turns to her and says cash or credit. She tries again, but he cuts her off again. Sorry, did you say cash or credit? She throws him a death stare. They have a plastic barrier up, and I think she was trying to melt it with her eyes or something the way she was staring at him. Credit, she finally says, pulling out her card. She pays and grabs her bag. Have a nice day, he says with a smile as she leaves. The manager started to scan my items, and the cashier was back by the time I was getting ready to pay. She apologized for Karen. I laughed and told her not to worry about it. This was the first live show I've seen in nearly a month. Some background information. I was born in German, but spent my life from 12 to 16 in England. Because of this I speak both German and English like my mother tongue. When I moved back to Germany, I decided to join a student teacher program where you can teach younger students your native language or a subject like maths, just to help them out in school a bit. I thought teaching English would be easy money. It was. I recommend doing stuff like that if you are bilingual. I put down my phone number so parents could call me up and arrange a time where I tutored their kid. One Sunday at 8 in the morning I got a phone call which woke me up. Because seriously, who is awake at 8 AM on a Sunday? Em didn't even say hello or anything. She just straight up asked me if I could teach her son German. I told her no, I don't, just English. She asked the list, said German then, and proceeded to yell at me how the list has to be changed if I change the subject I teach, and how this is irresponsible because she wasted so much time. I gave her the benefit of the doubt and thought, well, maybe the list was wrong and it really did say German. So after I hung up I checked the website, but nope. It said English next to my name. But this isn't the worst part. A few days after that I get a call from the student teacher program asking me what happened with name. I had never heard that name. The lady explained to me that Name's parents gave an official complaint about how I wasn't teaching the student because he's from an immigrant family and how I was very rude and racist over the phone. That woman was so petty at the fact that she called up the wrong number that she tried to get me fired from a volunteer organization where I earned €10 a week maximum. Still makes me laugh to this day. It was only my third week working. I started as a ticket seller, you know, the people locked in the little glass booth out front. I was still a little green, but I was adjusting well. The system was simple enough, and I could handle a rush, because it's not like I had to wait for or make the product. The tickets printed, and they were off and away. No longer my concern. Anyway, I had no idea people actually went to movies on Christmas. No idea how many people go to the movies on Christmas. I'm talking a line to the parking lot. We sold out of most of the movies for the evening and late night shows by 4 p.m. A 6:45 p.m. showing of The Mule, R-rated Clint Eastwood film that was showing at the time. This woman shows up at 6:40 with 12 pre-purchased tickets to the show for her and let kids and family. You check in with pre-purchased tickets at the booth too. We scan it and print regular tickets. We'll call her Carol. Carol hands me her phone to scan her tickets and proceeds to tell me she needs to purchase one more because she brought a 12-year-old neighbor with her to see it. An R-rated flick about a drug mule transporting cocaine. We began seating this film 15 to 20 minutes before she appeared at my window, and thus most of the seats were taken and all she was going to find were 13 separate individual seats, and her crew would all have to sit scattered in the theater. We don't assign seats at all at my theater. On top of that, I was completely sold out of the showing and couldn't sell her another ticket. I expressed all of this to Carol. Remember, there is a line to the parking lot behind her. She proceeds to rip me a new asshole. What do you mean you're sold out? It's Christmas and you can't sell me one more ticket to the fucking movie I've already paid to see. Are you ducking incompetent? You're a moron. Movie theaters don't sell out. I am seeing this movie and we are all going to sit together, and you're going to sell me one more method-ducking ticket to this show right now. She's screeching all this with her aforementioned 12-year-old neighbor standing to her left, and her young children and family behind her. These kids look terrified of Carol. I'm hard of hearing, so I had the speaker on my little two-way microphone turned all the way up, and I had to turn it all the way down during her tirade because of how loud she was screaming at me. The line behind her fell like dead silent, whereas they had all been chattering before. I still have her phone in my hand at this point, so I slide it back through the little window to her. I'm shaking and terrified and my heart is pounding in my throat because holy shit, that was awful to experience. I tell her, politely as utterly possible, "Ma'am, if you're unsatisfied with my answer, I'm going to ask you to step inside and speak to a manager." Violet, our general manager, is standing just inside at the bar. She'll be happy to help. Tears have come at this point. I couldn't contain my crying. She made some guttural screeching noise. I'm not fucking kidding. This woman let out a banshee screech and snatched her phone and stormed inside with her terrified horde following behind her. I begin helping the next customers who all console me and wish me a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays etc. Some even tipped me, which is unusual for a ticket seller. A little grandma with her grandson patted my hand and gave me a tissue from her purse and told me I was beautiful, so that helped. 5 to 7 minutes and 10 to 15 customers after Carol went inside, I hear the exit door slam open and I look over to see Carol and her horde exiting the building. She has a handful of free tickets in her hand. Sometimes instead of a refund we do next time tickets. It's a free pass for another movie anytime, any date. That never expires basically, and she's glaring at me. As her horde all moves towards the parking lot, she storms over and shoves the person in the front that I was helping away and waves the tickets against the glass, screeching, "Duck you cunt, I got free ducking passes for whenever I want. Thanks for ruining our Christmas movie, you ducking witch. Merry ducking Christmas. I hope your Christmas tree catches fire and burns down your goddamn ducking stupid disgusting roach infested minimum wage apartment." And she storms away. I lived with my mom at the time in a nice house, but it utterly rubbed in how little money I was making to deal with her shit and couldn't live on my own even at 22 years old. I wish I was joking about her final line, but that is burned verbatim into my brain because of how terrifyingly insane and traumatizing that was 3 weeks into a new job, just after exiting a 3-year career. So backstory, I work in a call center. Most of us are now working from home, but I'm one of the unlucky few who still have to go to work every day. We work long hours, but our opening times had to be cut to save money during the coronavirus pandemic. This means I had to get up on my day off to work a few hours and make up for lost time. It was 5 minutes before the end of my shift and I'd get a call. Before I could even introduce myself, the man was demanding I send him to a manager. I will call him Ed for entitled dad. This is how the conversation went. Me, good afternoon, you're through to Ed, get me your manager. Me, I will be happy to help you sir, but first I need to take your reference number. Ed, that's nonsense, I demand to speak with your manager. Me, in order to get you through to anyone else, I have to take your reference number and go through a few data protection questions. After that, I will do my best to help you with your query. Ed, I don't want to speak to you. Are you stupid or just terrible at your job? I need your manager. Manager. Me, we don't have managers, sir. We are overlooked by our customer relations team who have the most powers in the company to help you. You have to speak to me in order for me to get your details up. Otherwise the customer relations team will have no information to help you with. Now usually this explanation works, since they hear that court, customer relations, have all the power. Not this time. Ed, give me one good reason why you need to take my details. I want to speak to your manager now. You must be deaf or something. Me, it's necessary for data protection, sir. We on the front lines are the only ones who can access the system with your data protection details. I cannot pass you through to a manager I don't have. Ed, this is bull. He passes the phone to someone else, a young girl. I managed to introduce myself and take data protection details from her with no trouble at all. I confirm he is her dad and he is speaking on her behalf, and then continue the call with addition. Ed, right. Now that you've wasted my time, get me your manager. Me, sir, we do not have managers. There is absolutely no way I can do that. What I can do is pass you to our customer relations team and they can help you out with your query. Ed, of course you have manager you stupid girl. Who do you think you report to? Me, the customer relations team. Ed, you are obviously lying to me. All of your company are brain dead liars who clearly can't do their jobs properly. Now get up off your fat bottom and toddle on over to your manager. This continued back and forth for 10 more minutes with him inventing new insults to my intelligence. Eventually I got tired of it. I wasn't even supposed to be here today, and now I was working unpaid overtime listening to this lunatic scream at me for doing my job. Me, in a sweet voice, okay, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to place you on hold and speak with my superior. I chose this word carefully about this situation. I'll be back in a few minutes. He didn't say anything, just breathed and grunted heavily, so I shrugged and placed him on hold. Once through to court, they sighed and immediately told me he was a problem customer. He had been making continuous complaints for new ridiculous reasons every time we resolved another one. The policyholder had barely spoken to us herself. They told me to tell him there was no update on his previous complaint yet, but that if he still wanted to speak with them, he could, and that I should introduce the name and department of the person he was speaking with. I told him exactly that. Ed, no. I didn't ask for court. I asked for your manager. You just decided to make decisions for yourself, which you're not allowed to do. The customer is always right. And I know you have manager I can speak to. How thick are you? Did your parents never take you to school? Or are you just retarded? Me, annoyed, sir, you have two options available. Either I can pass you through to my superior, which is the customer relations team, the only other people you can speak to, or I can end this call now, as your language is not appreciated, and we are at an impasse here. I'm allowed to do this if the customer is talking down to me or refusing any of the options we had. Ed, you can't do that. My daughter needs me to sort this out, and by hanging up on me, you are violating my rights as your customer. I can get you fired. Me, sir, I have been following our protocols throughout this entire call. I'm allowed to end the call if necessary. Now would you like to be passed to court? Or should I end the call? Cue another 5-minute rant about how uneducated I am, and that I can't do my job properly. Somewhere in there he even threw in that I was violating data protection laws. Pretty sure you were trying to do that about 20 minutes ago, mate, when you tried skipping security questions. It was now 20 minutes past the end of my shift, and I just wanted to go home and stuff my face with Easter chocolate to make it all better. Me, the only way we can resolve this call is if I pass you through to court and they can take over from here. There is physically nothing else I can do. So I will pass you through right away. Thank you for holding. He started screaming again, but I placed him on hold. I gave the girl from court a heads up about what to expect, and she said it was okay, and that she'd take the call. I checked silently back in with the customer for a second to make sure he'd finished his screaming rant. All was quiet, so I passed him through to court. After typing up my notes, I finally left almost half an hour after my shift had ended.